Hi, today we're back with Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous companion builds for unfair difficulty, and today we're going to take a look at Regill. If you are new to the series and don't know how we do our builds, they are all made for unfair difficulty and none of them exploit bugs, so they should all remain viable despite any bug fixes or patches made to the game. It's also worth mentioning that all my builds are tested from early to late levels. They are not made just for the sake of YouTube videos. I do them firstly for my own unfair playthroughs, and it's very important to me that they are actually effective at every level in the game, so I can actually get through with my playthroughs and not just remain the helm of theory crafting. Because this is a turn-based system, but the game is real time with pause, sometimes builds don't go as I'd expect them, and that's why I think the testing is important, so I can both bring you the best builds and actually be able to beat the game on unfair difficulty, which is my main goal. With all that out of the way, let's get to our builds. Regill, very unfortunately, is not the strongest companion. There are a few reasons for that. One of them is because of build versatility. He doesn't have a lot of roles to fill aside from a melee damage dealer. He doesn't really have something else in which he can do well. The other problem is the build he starts in. His class is actually great in my opinion. I do think Hellknights are fairly strong, and I did enjoy doing a deep dive in the Hellknight class when I got Regill, and thinking of different builds we could try with that. But he has a 2-weapon fighting build, which in of itself is not a problem, but it is a very feat intensive build, so it needs to be well planned. Not only that, he also uses weapon finesse, which requires even more feats. But not happy, Owlcat gave him a weapon that doesn't work with weapon finesse, so he requires an extra feat on top of that to be able to use his weapon with weapon finesse. And because of all those feats that are required for his build, it does make him a lot weaker than he could have been, because it always feels like we are behind in terms of feats and even mythic feats, because weapon finesse is gonna require us one extra mythic feat, and 2-weapon fighting already takes one extra mythic feat, so we are basically 2 mythic feats behind in terms of damage, and also 2 feats behind because of the weapon finesse choice here. And this is the main reason why he's not the strongest. One of the options we could go here is either a Scald or a Blood Rager. I do think Scald is better. The reason is because he lacks a lot of mobility, so getting Pounce from Greater Beast Totem would increase his damage output significantly. Since he is a dexterity based character, he doesn't have reach, he doesn't go well with enlarged person or legendary proportions to increase his reach, so moving around for him is a problem, and Pounce can solve that. But that's not the path I chose to go. I stuck with Hellknight because Hellknights can actually get a way to move around the battlefield and still do full round attacks, which is kind of nice. I like this better than the Pounce, because Pounce relies on Mythic Charge to deal its damage, and against a boss, for example, where you charge once and you can't really get away and charge back in, get away and charge back in, you do lose a lot of damage. On regular fights, where you can charge every turn to different enemies, the Pounce build does really well, but I think I found a middle of the road build which can still move around the battlefield and do reliable damage once you lock into an enemy. We get Regill at level 6 and he's a first level Hellknight. We keep going Hellknight for now, and We take the Dazzling Display and Shatter Defenses as our first feats. I really think Shatter Defenses is needed for him as soon as possible because he might be able to hit enemies even on unfair, but the tougher enemies he won't be able to hit reliably, and Shatter Defenses will help with that. We also get at level 8 a choice of Hellknight Discipline. Here we are going to take an Cleric Domain and we are going to take War for that bonus combat feat at level 8. Here we have Regill at level 9, we just got to level 9, and let's see how he does in combat. I have Camellia here to demoralize enemies and Leopard to tank for us. Let's go in, let's cast Order of the Godclaw. It gives a morale bonus to AC, which is not easy to come by at this level, so it's quite nice for our animal companion, helping tank. And let's see if we can hit the enemies for some damage here. I'm gonna make Camellia use the Shatter Defenses to demoralize in AoE. And you can see his damage is not bad. But it's not until you really lock in an enemy that he starts to do good damage. That's why movement for him is so important. Otherwise he doesn't do much. There you saw how long he stood without doing anything. And if you want, we can see his damage with Smite increases by quite a lot, as you can see, just because his chances to hit also increase. So Camellia died here. I did not care to micro her out of the way. The point is just to show Regill's damage. It's not bad, but it does take a while for him to lock into an enemy and sometimes to move from one to another like we'd have to do here. Here we can only get one hit and you can see how long he stays there without doing anything until he starts to do damage again. And then we keep going for more Hellknight levels. At level 11 we take Outflank and we get yet another Hellknight Discipline, and we are going for Travel Domain. I know that seems a bit weird, but I hope it will make more sense after we get to Mythic abilities. Then we keep going Hellknight until 13, where we get Improved Critical for Gnome-Hooked Hammer and also our bonus feat from War Domain, which is going to be Improved to Weapon Fighting. And here we take our first multi-class. When we get to 14, we are going for Cleric instead of Hellknight. The reason for that is because of a requirement for one of the mythic abilities we need, and the choices in Cleric don't really matter. I took Channel Negative Energy and Law Domain, but it really doesn't matter. It's just because we need that one level in Cleric for the prerequisite. Then we are back into Hellknight until we get to level 10 Hellknight. So we were at 14, 15, we get Greater to Weapon Fighting. Then 16, 17 is Double Slice as a feat. And as our last Hellknight discipline, I took Tracker, just because I wanted to see the Hellhound summon. It's not that amazing. If you don't have anyone with the Nobility Domain, you can get that with Regill as your last Hellknight discipline. And now we are going to get our last levels into Fighter Arminger. We were a level 5 fighter, so our next level is level 6. We get a bonus feat. I took Combat Reflexes. Then at level 7 there's no choice. At level 8 we get Piranha Strike, and at the same time we get Greater Weapon Focus for Gnome-Hooked Hammer. And at level 20 we get to take another weapon training into double weapons. And I also took Fighter Reflex, though this is not that relevant. If you want something else, feel free to take. And now we are done with our regular levels. Let's see our Mythic. So in our Mythic levels, we start off with Last Stand. We are a melee damage dealer that doesn't have reach, so we really want Last Stand. Then we go into 2-weapon fighting Mythic, so we can actually hit things because our attack is not high at this point. Then we go into Unrelenting Assault for the extra damage, Weapon Finesse for even more damage, and at Mythic level 5 we will already have taken our Cleric level, and we need our Cleric level for Domain Zealot, even though we are able to access domains with the Hellknight class. It doesn't allow us to take Domain Zealot, because Domain Zealot has the Domain Selection class feature as a prerequisite. And when we get a Cleric domain with Hellknight, it is through a Hellknight discipline, which doesn't have the same name as Domain Zealot, so it doesn't give us the prerequisite for Domain Zealot, and that's why we needed the level 1 Cleric. I don't think this is a bug, but I think this might have been an oversight by the devs and might be worth a bug report as a suggestion to add the Hellknight discipline, which gives access to Cleric domains, as one of the prerequisites for Domain Zealot. This way we wouldn't need the level in Cleric, and we could take a level later in something like Ranger Demon Slayer for extra bonus to attack and damage against demons. Later we keep going for damage, so Improved Critical Mythic, Ever Ready for those insane bonus on both attack and opportunity attacks and damage rolls. Then we go into Weapon Focus Mythic for Non-Hooked Hammer. Since we have Weapon Focus and Greater Weapon Focus, this is a +2 to attack for us. Abundant Smite Chaos, I took this late because it's only 1 smite per 2 Mythic levels, so I don't think it's too impactful early on. That's why I only took it at level 9, and we finish it with Piranha Strike Mythic. For equipment, there's not much you want. You can of course give him an armor, some glasses, capes, amulet, anything you want, but I'm just going to highlight the most important ones. You really want a headband of charisma with the highest bonus you can, so we can better use our smites. You want a +6 belt of dexterity, doesn't have to be a silence belt, but just a +6 to dexterity is fine. Fencer's Gift is very important. This is going to give us a +2 bonus to our weapon training, as well as some extra damage, because we are using a double weapon. We also have Bracers of Heavy Hand, also gives extra damage because we are using a double weapon. And for weapon, I actually think the best option for him in this build we are doing is Finian. This is the first time I recommend Finian as a weapon. I don't think he's always the best, we have some very nice options, but because Hellknight can already give the axiomatic property to a weapon, and the second best option is already axiomatic, I actually think Finian is better, because it adds some force damage and will also be axiomatic in the hands of our Hellknight. So you can use this one if you have someone else using Finn already, but I do think Finn is the best option. And if you don't choose to go the build I showed and do a Scald or a Blood Rager to get that pounce ability like I mentioned earlier in the video, then Wrecking Devil probably is a better option for you than Finian. Now let's see how Regill performs in high level combat. We have the board to tank for us and Camellia to use demoralizes into enemies, and of course Regill so we can do some damage. We jump in and we can get to full round attacking. You can see our hits are decent, but without the demoralize our chances to hit are not that good. Now that she's shaken, we get smite, we can get some bigger hits in, strong criticals, and the enemy goes down quickly. I'm going to show our chances to hit here in a bit. You can see a 41, but this is not a full BAB attack. Let's search for one at full BAB. This is also not a full BAB, but it is a 46. Here, a full BAB attack is a 51. We don't have that many buffs, just heroism, greater, and reduce person, so we can easily get this to the 70s, 80s with things like guarded hearth, nobility domain, and all those other buffs we can get from other party members. And the good part of this build is that we no longer have downtime. We can immediately teleport, go back to attacking. Here you can see he's already attacking even though his turn did not reset yet. And without this downtime, our damage per turn increases quite significantly. And another enemy down. We can also use this to teleport to backline in fights where there's some priority targets we wouldn't be able to get to without teleporting, which is quite nice, and he has last stand, so he can do that, last for at least 2 turns with last stand, and jump back to safety once the target is dead. So it opens up some nice options in some fights to take down some enemies you wouldn't be able to otherwise. And yeah, it's extremely fun to play in my opinion. I like the action economy that we have options to do with our swift actions in Dimensional Hop and Smite. I like that this build is strong against bosses. Once you lock in a target, you Smite Chaos, you get a 20 bonus damage to attacks. Here we are missing a lot of buffs like Crusader's Edge, which would increase our damage by 2d6 and our weapon enchantment by 2. And a lot of other things as well. We could get a lot of damage from Sozio's Destruction Domain too. And yeah, at the end of the day he can do some pretty nice damage. I still think he's not the strongest companion. He doesn't have any versatility in terms of his builds. Every build just ends up being a melee damage dealer, but he does get there. He does do a good job as a melee damage dealer. So this is it for our Regill build. I did enjoy playing him and also building him. I learned a lot about the Hellknight class, and I do have some very interesting ideas for a Hellknight main character. And I'd like to hear from the comments if anyone has played Regill in a different build, maybe as a Scald or a Blood Rager with the Greater Beast Totem for charging, and if it did well for you, if you liked the results. But until the next video, I hope you have a good time.